What's going on, CrossFit Federal Way? It is Monday, and this week should be starting the last week of our shutdown, as far as we know. So looking forward to getting through this week, getting into next week, getting into the start of 2021, and back to the grind with each of you actually in the gym. So keep your eyes peeled for information going out about when to return equipment and all that sort of stuff this coming weekend. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. So anyway, let's talk about what we're getting ourselves into for today's workout. We are going with yet again another open workout, going back to 2016 and doing 16.1. 16.1 was a 20-minute AMRAP, so you have 20 minutes to do as many rounds and reps as possible of a 25-foot overhead walking lunge, which we're going to talk about our options there, because I know some people are going to have space where they feel comfortable doing overhead lunges. Other people may be limited to your garage where you really don't have the chance to actually do walking lunges, and we'll talk about the number of reps that we can do there. So 25-foot overhead walking lunge, that is with a barbell, and the prescribed weight, 95 pounds for guys, 65 pounds for the ladies. And if you have a dumbbell or a kettlebell or anything else like that, whatever implement you use, treat that as an overhead walking lunge and use that. If you have or don't have a barbell at home, you'll be fine. There's plenty of ways to tackle this workout without that. So I do my 25-foot overhead walking lunge, 8 bar-facing burpees, 25-foot walking lunge again, and then 8 chest to bar pull-ups. And I'm going to continue through that as many times as I can in 20 minutes. So let's start by talking a little bit about the overhead walking lunge. Now, if I don't have space to do a 25-foot lunge, how we are doing this is we're going to go 10 alternating, I guess it'd still be overhead. So let's go overhead lunge. So still switching legs, but what we found is across the board, anywhere from 8 to 10 reps or steps on an overhead walking lunge will, for most athletes, cover that 25 feet. And so if we keep it at 10, that makes it even across the board for those of us that aren't able to have the space to cover 25 feet. But obviously alternating, so it's 5 on each side. So you can't just give it all to your right side because that's a stronger side and it feels more stable. Switch it up and make sure that you're balancing that out. So let's talk about the overhead walking lunge itself. So with an overhead walking lunge, the things that you want is, one, that bar to be all the way up overhead. Now, once the bar is in the overhead position, as you're lunging, the lunge is going to meet the same standard as it would if it was body weight. So when I step forward, I'm shooting to have my trailing knee touch the ground. My front foot should be about 90 degrees. So if I'm sending my knee over my toes and I'm getting this overextension of the knee, that is going to mean that I am not taking a big enough step. It also makes it to where my weight is not rooted in my heel, and that can make my lunge itself a little bit more unstable. So we want to make sure we're taking a big enough step that we're in a good stationary position here, so then when we can drive up from that foot, I'm able to get plenty of weight down into my heel and it's not super toesy. I guess I should finish with, as you're going through on the walking lunge, you want to make sure those hips are all the way open. So once I come down and touch the ground, I'm standing all the way up till that way my leg is at full extension and I'm not shorting myself as I step through. So you can either bring your feet together, or if I'm stepping all the way through, still making sure I'm squeezing my butt at the top, and then I'm actually getting my legs extended. I'm not doing the lunge thing where I stay lower to the ground. So as I'm coming through, I'm not keeping my knees bent. As I'm lunging, I'm still hitting full extension, even if it's just briefly as I go through for my next rep. So with that overhead lunge, same idea, taking that 95 pounds overhead, and from here, trailing knee touches the ground, coming all the way back up to standing. Again, 8 to 10 reps is about 25 feet. So that's going to be our standard there. When we're done with the first 25 feet, we go into 8 bar-facing burpees. And the bar-facing burpee means that I am facing my barbell. I have to make sure that I'm perpendicular to my bar. Facing either angle or going parallel does not count. So from here, chest and thighs hit the ground. My head needs to be far enough back that I'm behind the bar. If I'm super close and I'm craning my head back, my chest can't hit the floor. So already, that's a no rep, doesn't count. Need to make sure that you're all the way down, that chest is to the floor, and then jumping over the bar will end that rep. For this workout, it is a 2-foot takeoff, 2-foot landing, which means every time that I jump, both my feet are leaving the ground at the same time. They're landing on the ground at the same time. So what that means I can't do is I can't jump this way. That doesn't count. I also can't do this thing where my feet land at separate times. So even though that last jump, my jump was 2-foot takeoff, it wasn't a 2-foot landing. So being conscious of even as I'm turning, both my feet are hitting the ground at the same time, and I'm not getting that tap, tap type finish. Really easy to do that when you're going really fast. But for this year in the open, that was the standard that was given. So that's the standard that we're going to measure ourselves against for this workout. So then we would go back to that 25-foot walking lunge. And then the last movement is a chest to bar pull-up. Now, I know not everyone has a pull-up bar at home, but the big difference between a regular pull-up and a chest to bar pull-up is where the bar ends. So if a regular pull-up, I'm just trying to get my chin over the bar, I want to get that bar to my chest, so it's making contact anywhere below my collarbone. If I'm not below my collarbone and I'm making contact, that doesn't count. That means I'm not pulling low enough. So what you want to be thinking about on your chest to bar is not only am I kipping aggressively, but when I pull down on that bar, I want to think about reaching my elbows together. So I'm thinking about trying to touch my elbows together. That's going to create extension in my chest and cover a lot more distance to get my chest to that actual pull-up bar. So from here, I'm thinking aggressive kick, pull to my chest, and make sure I'm getting contact with that bar for every single rep. Now you can break this up however you want to, but this workout is set up where at least at first, I should be thinking about nice and steady pacing. This is one of those ones where 20 minutes is a long time. So if I'm looking at a 25-foot overhead lunge and only 8 reps of either burpees or pull-ups, I need to make sure that I pace appropriately. I could go out like a bat out of hell and get through my first couple rounds super fast and then blow up, and the rest of that workout becomes pain management and gets really mental really fast. And while this workout will get mental for all of us, what we want to make sure we're doing is that if I have a good appropriate pace, if I can keep, say, if it takes me 2 minutes around for 20 minutes, just throwing that number out there, but if it takes me 2 minutes around, that's 10 rounds at the end of 20 minutes. If I'm thinking at the beginning of this, I need to hit 10 rounds, that might stress me out. Instead of just tackling it 1 round at a time, focus on your breathing, control where you're at mentally, because there's gonna be a point where it just hurts. You don't wanna pick up the bar for your overhead lunge, you don't want a burpee, you don't want a chest to bar. So the trick is gonna be, when it's time to transition, focus on coming off the pull-up bar, grabbing your barbell and getting it up overhead. As soon as you get it overhead, you're gonna be motivated to keep moving. When you're done with that, drop it. If I'm going to my burpees, immediately drop to the ground and just start moving. Your burpees don't have to be pretty. They don't have to be fast. But again, we're looking for consistency in this workout. So now if I'm looking at scaled options and I don't know what to do, so for bar-facing burpees, you could scale it down to regular burpees. If you don't have a barbell, if you don't have something that you can place as an object, a broom handle, a PVC pipe, something to give you a reference to jump over. So if you're, say, doing this with a dumbbell because that's all you have, grab a broom. Do your bar-facing burpees over the broom. Yes, it's lower to the ground, but it still gives you that same sort of stimulus. It still gives you the same idea and puts you in a similar position to doing it with a barbell, even if the actual height of your jump doesn't have to be as high. That's okay. Now with other things like chest to bar pull-ups, if you don't have a pull-up bar and you have that bed sheet set up to do some bodyweight rows, just treat that as bodyweight rows. Maybe make them a little bit more challenging. Walk your feet a little further forward if you're capable, depending on what your setup looks like at home. And make those rows a little more challenging than you would under normal circumstances with regular pull-ups. That way we have to be more aggressive on that pull, and that's going to at least more closely simulate a chest-to-bar pull-up or what's needed in terms of effort. So having those set up, if you don't have any way to do any pulling motions, and you do have a barbell, bent over rows are a great option to get those lats involved. You will go through 8 bent over rows at 95 pounds or 65 pounds fairly quickly. It's not necessarily about the movement being hard. It's about doing the best with what we have for just a little bit longer, because we're getting closer and closer to that reopen date and getting everybody back in the gym. So, yeah, with that, let's head back to the board. We'll talk through this one more time, and we'll get after it. So, 16.1, 20-minute AMRAP of 25-foot overhead walking lunge. Again, if you don't have the space to do 25 feet, 10 total reps. Alternating overhead lunges with whatever implement you have, whether it's a barbell at the prescribed weight, a dumbbell, a kettlebell, something, anything. 8 bar-facing burpees, 25-foot overhead walking lunge again, and 8 chest-to-bar pull-ups. With that, guys, this one's a doozy. It gets mental really fast, and just remember, stay calm, keep breathing, hang on, and let's get after it.